MovieWeb.com.
One of the interesting things about this movie, for me personally, was the fact that some of the people that got so heated about this story this kid is telling never fact-checked, or we don't see them fact-checking this kid in the film, and I'm wondering, do you think that plays into people's willingness to believe whatever story they hear and want and need to hear?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's one of the aspects of the internet, which is really suspicious, is the fact that people are so excited by the sea of information that very often they get overwhelmed by by their imagination, and rather than actually having a thoroughness and seeing and following a story through. Because the actual episode that he's referring to, if he was the son of that particular actual terrorist, it wouldn't have made any sense. So, but that's, I think, one of the things that's interesting about the movie is that these groups and reactions are formed without consideration, because there's no real responsibility. I mean, you're not really accountable to anyone in terms of what you say and what you choose to profess and believe. You know, it's like there's no, and that's kind of what's thrilling about the internet, but also what's really dangerous about it as well. You know. I mean, you know, communities are formed and groups are formed that wouldn't really have any relevance in the real world, but suddenly become very powerful and seem very real in that period of time that they're being exchanged. I mean, look at what happens with YouTube, and you know, like suddenly something is just really so irresistible and entertaining and diverting, and questions of it being authentic are kind of secondary.
And also, like in the recent past, we've seen people who've written whole books claiming that they're real, and they come out and they're lying. And I'm wondering, was it your intent in a scene like where we have this guy who's saying, "I've come back, and this is me, the guy that survived," but at the same time,
but what did he survive though? I mean, nothing actually happened to him, you know. And I think that that's, you know, you're talking about the group of people who are responding to the catastrophe that never even happened. Well, that's a really good example. I mean, you know, a group of people who are saying that they are still suffering the psychological damage of an event that never happened, but might have happened, that's an absurd construct. But it could exist on the internet because people don't have time to actually consider and filter things. They're responding immediately. And they get caught up in the excitement and the possibility of something having an emotional outlet, which, you know, they're not being judged on, because of the particular nature of that medium. It's just the way it is. You know, like people can be very spontaneous and can slip into identities and can believe that these things are real, but they're not. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it's such an amazing medium for porn, right? It just sort of allows any fantasy to kind of be explored without any limitation, or it's part of what makes it so fun ultimately. And in this case, though, that character, he really believes it at that moment, you know, and we might actually believe it at that moment, that he believes it. But if you stop and think about it, and if he stops and thinks about it, it wouldn't make any sense. And that's not a community that could exist in the real world. Those people would not get into a car and drive to a clubhouse to, you know, kind of like, you know, they would get in the car and they realize, what am I doing? But you don't have that, even that physical moment when you're on the net. You just react spontaneously.
Well, I was going to say, that's also interesting, that point you just brought up, is that a lot of people blame the internet for ripping people apart because they're at home, they're typing, there's no human interaction, yet we're seeing people brought closer together at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah, I don't agree with that idea. I don't see it as being oppressive. I think it's actually incredibly exhilarating and fun. I just think that it's not the place to actually seek real solutions to issues that are being raised in this film. I mean, issues of your identity and who your parents are, and those involve a physical research. So I think what happens to Simon, the main character, is that he initiates this process through the web and through these, you know, interactions with these people, but then he has to go out in the physical world and actually, you know, create those real journeys.